Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Otsego City Council meeting. Tonight is Monday, April 22nd. Audra, can you have the record show that our attorney will be on Zoom? He's not on yet, but that's what I've been advised. Councilmember Gady is absent. Present this evening is Councilmember Dunlap, Dahl, and Moores, along with our Assistant Administrator and our City Administrator. At this time, I'll ask you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first item of business this evening is our open forum. This is the portion where you can come to the podium, state your name and address, and limit comments to 5 minutes or less. Would anyone like to speak at this time? Yes.
Hello,
Hello.
Stuart Turnquist. 11020 95th Street Northeast. Madam Mayor, council members, and all others present, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My front farmhouse front yard is about to become a roundabout. Over half of the front yard is going to be a roundabout. I like that idea. It means that this what was a sleepy gravel road you could walk across with cows and a beautiful idyllic pasture on the other side with a clear creek. It turned eventually into kind of a miniature Daytona Beach raceway. Even my cousin Butch Turnquist had to move out because this nonstop County Road 39 that scared him. So have you all been around seeing 39 and 19 and all of the ways that that's gone through so many changes over the years? So finally it's a solution, and I really look forward to that. But it turns out that you really can't get to my place from there. That the access, which I just found out because the crew was out burying cables this morning, and I went down to ask them, well, how are you going to know where to go? And he said, well, we've got the design here. And he took a very helpful fellow, and he took out his phone and called it up. And so I saw exactly what was going to be happening. And it had the driveway, my driveway, right where it has been, but where it has been is going to end up being in this sort of a no man's land that's between where the roundabout rotates and the beginning of the road separations occur. In that area right there, you can get out and you can go wherever you want. But when you come to get back in, if you're coming from Monticello, the west, or Elbertville, the east, or the south, the only way you can get in is by going 3 miles down the road to the next roundabout, turning it around so you can come in from the east. Now, that puts a real pressure on, because the whole project that I have been developing there for the last, I don't know, 25, 30 years, that was going to once again become a bed and breakfast and a farm store, because my aunt and uncle, they sold eggs and made maple syrup, and so, it had a regular importance to the community. So it's actually kind of almost like a science fiction movie where you've got a black hole where You know, anything gets close to it, they go in. And they never come out. But this is the reverse. You can go out, but you can never come back. So I don't know if there's anything you all can do, but it was surprising to me because I had talked with the original designer and he was very helpful and he said, showed me it. And it showed like, here's the roundabout. Here comes a east and a west access and egress and a north and a south. And that you would simply rotate until your desired direction. And so I thought, well, this is no problem. This is good. This fits, you know, a lot of what I'd understood in the past, because they've been working on this problem with this T there for, well, as soon as it got to be more people using it. So, so I knew that it could be done. And he said, but the highway department has to look at it first to approve this. So I didn't hear, he said it was going to be soon that I could hear. And this is way back in August. And when he came, didn't come, then I gave him a call and he wasn't there, that a new person had come in, that he had left that position. And so it took another waiting period. And finally, a fellow appeared who was a right-of-way agent and said, here's what's going to happen. And I couldn't believe it because I didn't have any access there. But they did take up, you know, over half of the front yard of the in order to get the roundabout in. Figured, you know, if you're donating that big of a chunk of property that you're going to be in their good graces. But it turns out that they wanted to shave, and that's why they have to take so much. They don't want to build anything that has to do with a retaining wall. So they shave and they take it way back, which occurred to me that that's going to mean quite a bit of maintenance over the years anyway, having a long piece like that. But that's the short of it. And I don't know if you all can do anything, but at least I figured if you know what was happening, because I intend to try to go forward again with this bed and breakfast and this whole idea that I have, which is that is overlaying agriculture, nature, and art, because that is an extraordinary piece. And that it has the north end is on the river, Mississippi River, and the south end is the big woods. And I've been building that piece up over the years because it's taken 5 separate parcels to build that perfect piece of land to develop what I think is going to be in a very exciting future. And there's already books being made and films being made. And so it is going to be a project that's noteworthy. And having this situation, which is really puts a danger in terms of people that are trying to come in and go out from it, doesn't make any sense to me. Thank you for your attention.
Stuart, so the person that was out, because this is a Wright County project, does staff have any,
Mayor,
have you guys seen the drawings?
yeah, we've talked with Mr. Turnquist.
Okay.
We've also, on his behalf, talked with county staff regarding this project. The way the county is designing this is primarily focused on the east, west, south legs. The extent of the north leg basically provides a new driveway access to the conference center. In order for access to Mr. Turnquist's property to access that leg, there'd need to be an easement from Riverwood to Mr. Turnquist, which the conference property is not willing to provide. We've also had the discussion with Wright County that this is kind of a short window to be looking at this, or a
Right.
short-sighted view to look at this, that if you're gonna invest in constructing the roundabout, you should be providing equal access to all the properties on the north side. They've been reluctant to consider that. The last conversation we had with them, they indicated they would provide us a plan showing how ultimately access could be provided to both properties, the conference center and Mr. Turnquist on the north side of the property or of the roundabout, but it would require more right-of-way acquisition than they were willing to consider as part of this project.
But he's already donating how much? I mean,
They're condemning part of it in order to acquire,
it just seems like he's giving and the conference center,
Yeah.
treatment center is benefiting and no one else is getting.
yeah, and I should
access.
note that, so the county has put this project off now, at least till next year, if not the year after, because of the I-94 project, with County Road 39 being a detour. So there is still opportunity for Mr. Turnquist to work with county staff and for the city staff to look on behalf of both property owners at the long-term transportation needs in that area, to make sure that we're not creating a problem where one doesn't necessarily exist at this point.
Sure. If you need to include me, if we need to go to Wright County, I mean, it doesn't make any sense that he has to drive 3 miles to get it into his yard.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Dan, when did you speak with Wright County?
Mayor, I believe that was probably a month or so ago.
Okay.
Last discussion we had regarding this. So.
Really unfortunate.
It came as a real surprise to me to see them burying those cables and
Yeah.
going down and just asking and finding out that they had. And I had not even heard from the highway department that they had come to a decision.
Right.
So it was really sort of all right. A situation where I thought I'd appear, even though obviously I'm not well prepared, but
No, I mean,
to let you all know what's.
this is the
evolving.
first we're hearing of it, so obviously we have some concerns. So do we have Stuart?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So we will be in contact with you because you need to have access to your parcel just as much as the conference center does.
Yes. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So Ron and Dan,
Mayor, we'll follow up with county staff, because as I said, they did indicate they were gonna provide us a plan for the ultimate design of the roundabout. And we can use that as the basis to further discussion about access to both properties north of the roundabout.
right,
With it being set back a year or two, it gives us more time to get
sure.
those discussions to happen.
I'm also a little confused why the neighbor wouldn't provide access for him to then enter his property. That just seems a little odd to me too. Stuart was nothing but kind to support them when they decided to relocate to Otsego. So maybe we need to remind them of that. Council, would you agree?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Stuart. All right, this is still the open forum portion. Would anyone else like to comment? Okay, we will close the open forum and move on to item 2 to consider our agenda for approval. Does anyone have anything that they would like to add or delete at this time? Motion would be in order.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Brittany.
I'll move to approve the agenda as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Brittany, seconded by Jeff. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item is our consent agenda. A motion would be in order.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Brittany.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Brittany, seconded by Jeff. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item is under our planning, 4.1, Zachman Meadows. I will turn this over to the planner.
Thank you, Mayor. Boyd Delansky is here this evening with their development plans for 60 acres located north of 70th Street and east of Cadler Avenue. The 2023 comprehensive plan includes a mix of land uses on this property, including low to medium density and to high density residential in the area north of this wetland complex. Industrial land uses at the corner of Cadler Avenue and 70th Street. The developer is requesting amendment of the zoning map to rezone the property to planned unit development district based on the requirements of the R6 district for the residential portions of the project and I2 general industrial district for the industrial portions of the project. You can see on the map that Cadler Avenue is becoming an industrial corridor, but the north portion of the property abuts the Windsong development, which was approved in the early 2000s as part of the Kittredge Crossings plat. And was intended to extend residential uses all the way to Cadler. So this is basically finishing out that land use and was carried forward as part of the comprehensive plan. The corner at Cadler Avenue and 70th Street was guided for industrial uses as the gateway into that industrial area and wouldn't create compatibility issues with surrounding uses, with that occurring to the south in Albertville and planned commercial or office warehouse to the east on the Otsego side of 70th Street. The applications include the zoning map amendment as stated, addressing lot requirements, setbacks, private drive and unit-based lot configuration of the subdivision. Also the potential for common interest community or condo ownership for either the residential elements or the individual spaces within the commercial buildings. They're also subdividing the property into the residential and industrial components as part of a preliminary plat. The residential use on the north portion of the projects, it consists of 115 single-family lots, just over 5,000 square feet in area per lot, which is consistent with the city's allowances for single-family villa homes. Basically treating these the same as we would a townhouse, but separated and no common sidewalls for increased privacy and additional size as well. They'll dedicate right-of-way for Cadler Avenue. Part of that dedication includes additional right-of-way over what the city would typically require for an industrial collector street. The city would require 40 feet of half right-of-way, but because the Wright County Transportation Plan anticipates that Cadler Avenue could become a county state aid highway in the future, they're asking for 150 feet of right-of-way, for 75 feet for the east half of that road. That isn't necessarily certain that will occur and if or when it would occur. So in consideration of the pre-established layout of Kittredge Crossings and the property surrounding it, in order to make the layout of the subdivision work, it's necessary to reduce the rear yard setback of the blocks abutting Cadler Avenue from the 65 feet typically required to 30 feet. That 35-foot difference is made up basically in the difference between the city's standard collector street right-of-way and the county right-of-way. So these homes aren't going to be any closer to the existing road. If in fact it is expanded in the future, the road would come closer, but right-of-way for county roads typically has greater separation between the roadway surface and the property line. There's also the requirement to provide a residential buffer yard in that area to, obviously with the time involved between today and when and if that county road occurs, those trees will mature and offset any impacts. The rest of the setbacks are standard per the zoning ordinance for R6 type development. All the streets within the north portion of the project are public except for this U-shaped section to the south of Kittredge Parkway. Because of the depth of where Kittredge Parkway needs to align with 73rd Street to the west of Cadler in that wetland complex, there isn't space for 2 rows of blocks plus a public right-of-way in that area without creating wetland impacts. This area was specifically highlighted as part of the 2018 multiple family housing study as an opportunity for an apartment complex because of that situation. But the developer is proposing single family, which is a nice transition to Windsong to the east. So in that situation and recognizing that these are in effect townhomes, that use of the private drive is appropriate. It's still designed to the same width and section as a public street, but would be owned and maintained by the owners of those lots abutting and accessing it. Sidewalks are being extended from Windsong through the development on one side of all public streets as required by the subdivision ordinance. There wouldn't be trails constructed as part of this given the undefined nature of Cadler Avenue and 70th Street. Ultimately, looking at the park system master plan, there's a greenway corridor that goes along the north side of this site in the future that would provide access as part of the overall trail system. Plus, going back through Kittredge Crossings to 70th Street is the most likely route for these residential homes. Landscaping for the residential portion of the property would consist of 2 trees per lot, plus the residential buffer yards adjacent to Cadler Avenue, and for those lots on the south side of Kittredge Parkway that back up to the road so that their rear yards are screened. The plat does need to be revised so that all of the wetlands and wetland buffers that are shown on the documents are platted in outlots, which would then be deeded to the city. Dwellings themselves, Lennar will be the builder within the residential portion of the project. My understanding is they intend to acquire all the lots from the initial final plat and then proceed to build them out. They'll have 2 styles, one being a 2-story slab on grade structure with house plans similar to that are offered in the Hunter Hills development already on the west side of the city, north of 80th Street, east of County Road 19. Then a second housing style intended to address potential affordability issues. Basically a slab on grade single structure ranging just over 1,100 square feet to less than 2,000 square feet. Each of these do have 3 bedrooms, so they are fully sized dwelling units. They do have an attached garage, but they're fairly modest layout intended again to address affordability issues. These are located within the development at the interior, surrounded by the 2-story structures. So for the most part, they'll be screened by the larger structures, and they are somewhat consistent with the layout of the homes in Windsong as well. The industrial use of the property includes 15 buildings within 160,000 square feet of space. Each of these has multiple tenant bays. The developers intending to incorporate and allow for enthusiast garages throughout the project, and then also business opportunities for small trades and contractors to use those for their business location versus, as we often find in people's driveways, garages, or pole barns in the city. So this provides opportunity as an incubator almost to locate those businesses into appropriate locations. That's a clarification too from the Planning Commission and the reason that you have the revised condition of approval outlined. When we initially wrote this up, our assumption was that the enthusiast garages were located only at the southwest corner of the project, but their intent is to locate the business and enthusiast garages all throughout the development, which from a use standpoint doesn't necessarily cause any conflicts or concerns from staff's perspective. It probably makes things easier from an enforcement standpoint, because if you ended up having somebody with an enthusiast garage in there, then it would be an enforcement issue. Lot requirements are met in terms of the overall project for an I-2 district requirement. The building coverage is just over 12%, so well within the 50% allowed. They do meet the setbacks required from wetlands, and also the roads on the west and south sides of the property. Off-street parking is generally handled, and the analysis was similar to that of a mini storage, where there isn't going to be full daytime occupancy of these structures. Someone's going to come get their equipment and go do an off-site job, or use it from the enthusiast garage standpoint. Each of the buildings is more than 50 feet apart, so there is space if someone just pulls up short term in front of their structure to load, unload, etc. There are also off-street parking stalls adjacent to the clubhouse areas. So from a use standpoint, staff is comfortable with the availability of off-street parking as shown. The developer did indicate at the Planning Commission meeting that they would have a more detailed site plan showing where additional off-street parking stalls could be designated within the site if they prove to be necessary. Some additional items that are addressed as part of the plans include some general landscaping for the commercial portion of the project, and then we'll address exterior lighting and signs as permits after the fact. The buildings for the industrial portion are all 1-story structures with large overhead doors intended to be finished out individually to suit the needs of the end user. The structures would need to be updated to meet the material requirements established by the zoning ordinance, but are otherwise appropriate for this zoning district and this use. The engineering elements of the application were reviewed by the city engineer's office. That includes dedication of right-of-way for Cadler Avenue and 70th Street based on their future designation as potential county roads. They provided a grading plan that does include some minor wetland impacts in the center of the industrial development, but otherwise leaves the majority of the wetlands preserved and protected, including a wetland buffer. And they would also pay a stormwater impact fee for Otsego Creek as part of the project. Sewer and water are available to the development. The north portion of the project is significant because it allows one step of the extension of trunk sewer towards Cadler Avenue, which is necessary to continue industrial development along that corridor to the north and to the west of Cadler. So it's positive to see that moving forward. They'll provide service throughout their project for these uses and pay utility availability charges for that service. Drainage and utility easements are shown as required by the subdivision ordinance over stormwater elements as well as utility extensions within the project as well. Park dedication requirements, this area for the residential uses is served by Kittredge Park within the Kittredge Crossings development slightly to the east. That is connected by sidewalk, so there is connectivity and access for that. So park dedication, both for the residential and for the industrial portion of the development, would be paid and satisfied as a cash fee in lieu of land at time of final plat. City staff is recommending approval of the application based on the land use being consistent with the recommendations of the 2023 comprehensive plan. We also recommend approval of the PUD district as it's consistent with the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance implementing the comprehensive plan for this area. The performance standards set forth by the PUD district also mirror the intent of the base regulations established by the zoning ordinance as well. Planning Commission held a public hearing at their meeting last Monday, April 15th. There were a number of residents present from the Windsong and Kittredge Crossings neighborhood, mainly with concerns about timing and typical questions that we get when there's new development adjacent to existing. One of the bigger discussion items was over traffic and how traffic within this neighborhood would be accommodated. We explained that Kittredge Parkway is designed as a 46-foot wide collector street, even though it serves a much smaller area than it would typically serve and serves much lower traffic volumes as a result. So from that standpoint, staff is comfortable that traffic is adequately addressed, but you also have the draft minutes of the Planning Commission included as part of your packet for reference. But after taking comments and public discussion, or Planning Commission discussion, the Planning Commission did vote 6-0 to recommend approval. So possible actions for the City Council this evening would be consideration of ordinance 2024-05, amending the zoning map to establish the PUD district, and then approval of a PUD development stage plan and preliminary plat, which would be subject to now 32 conditions as recommended by the Planning Commission and that amended here this evening.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to comment? Great.
Thank you, Madam Mayor,
Yep.
council members. Thank you for your time tonight. Definitely two projects we're excited about. I'm Craig Delansky from Boyd Delansky. My business partner, Scott Boyd. I'm Craig Delansky, lifelong resident of Elk River, Minnesota. Starting with the residential project, Zachman Meadows, something we're proud of, and working together with Lennar, just a respected builder, and then done a lot of work in Minnesota that we're, happy to be aligned with and working together. In honor of the Zachman family we bought this property from, Kenneth and Margaret, we named it Zachman Meadows. They wanted to maybe have a street or two that was named after them, but we couldn't do that part. But project is named after them in honor of their families. So the residential project, it's 115 lots like Dan explained. And I know that they got some different model types that are going to be, I think, well suited. We could have done something with apartment buildings there, but it was just something we didn't want to be a part of. So not there's anything wrong with apartment buildings, but we like the idea of single family residential homes. We also feel like it complements our condo suite Otsego project. We have 3 different product types. And we did that by design. When we analyze this arena, this product is very popular in different parts of the United States. It's taken out more so in Minnesota. The main focus in Minnesota has been more around the car enthusiast. We wanted to branch that out a little bit. Tradesman condos, there's more pressure on people having to come out of their backyards that have maybe a small business operating out of their backyard. They can't do that no more. So the tradesman condo offers that. business entity an option to go do, something in this area, right? And we want to have this structured in a way that, that's more of a separate area compared to the classic condos, which is a different product type, different price point, but they also can be part of that. We don't want to limit any of them to not being a car enthusiast, which is our luxury condo suite unit on the corner of Cadler and 70th. That's our signature, and it's going to have a clubhouse incorporated within itself. That we want that to be the higher end, but we don't want to limit them to not being able to have a business operating out of there. We know that it's all zoned to be able to run a business out of the entire project. But also we want to be aware that we want to police this in a certain way, have associations in a certain way that, the tradesman condos are separate, right? But also they have use of a clubhouse that's attached to the classic units coming off of 70th. Yeah, 70th that they might want to use for a Christmas party or whatever. They might be able to reserve it for their employees to have a Christmas party, birthday party, whatever it might be. We wanted that to be more of a community type clubhouse that could be used by the classics and the tradesman condos. And the luxury condos are going to have a clubhouse that's within their own. It's going to be within the middle of the two classic units or luxury units, which is 11 of those units, 11 1,800 square foot units, luxury units with a clubhouse of their own. That'll be a multi-level. And then on the classics, it'll have a clubhouse that's now attached. We initially showed it detached. We're trying to make it more usable, more friendly, and something that's just makes more sense for everybody involved. It's, these units are going to be owned by, business owners, car enthusiasts, people that have different interests, whatever it might be, collectors of whatever it might be. But we tried to also develop and design through Hellman Architects, and Landform has done a lot of planning and a lot of works went into planning this. We want this to be something that everybody can be proud of, and it's got our name on it as well. And we take pride in what we do. So we're going to work hard to make both these projects something that Otsego is proud of as well. So we're excited to get them started. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
So just so clarification, so there's going to be 2 clubhouses
Correct.
and the front end down on 70th, they get access to that clubhouse,
Correct.
but then everyone else gets access to the one in the back.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, we just after analyzing it, just felt like that was the best way to do it. There was no way to really connect the luxury
Right.
units to that arena. So we just kind of separated it to where it makes more sense. It's all within the same square footage that we have with the initial clubhouse design
Okay.
that you'll have with our final plans that are coming in. And Landform can speak to that if we need to, but I definitely feel it's a better flow. It's a better layout. It's going to work better for definitely all of our condo suite owners, users. We want to have a nice project that's that's tidied up, professional.
So one question too, just because you talk about the businesses, small businesses, how many, is it a 1-stall garage or is this like a 2-stall that they could fit
So
into?
tradesman condos there's 66 tradesman condos,
Yep.
100 square foot.
Okay.
Okay, there's 66 of those, 48 classic condos, and we'll just call them the next tier up. We're not gonna allow a landscaper, electrician. My son's an electrician. No disrespect to anybody, but you know what I mean. We're gonna try to manage that to a point where so the classic condos are going to be somewhat separate. There might be a printer in that area, someone that does graphic design, or there might be something different in the classic area compared to our tradesman condos. That's more of maybe a machinist or a plumber, electrician, landscaper. We want that to be, separate. We're going to definitely make sure that we police that in a way that we make that separate. And then we're going to have 2 different associations. So, but the tradesmen's, we want the tradesman condos to have access to the clubhouse. And that's why we did it the way we're doing it now. We want them to have an opportunity to be able to, hey, if you want to have a birthday party, Christmas party, you can arrange that through the association. But it'll be a separate association to the luxury condo units.
Mayor?
Yes.
I would just add, so we learned of the change to the clubhouse layout today.
Okay.
And
So I was like, I didn't hear
yeah,
there was
if
2.
it's-
I apologize. I
I
apologize.
was like, I was there.
Hey, and Dan and Ron were great to work with. And again, there's a couple things changing on the fly, and I apologize for that. But
If it's a significant change, then that we can have the planning commission review that element when the final plat comes back through, if necessary.
I think it makes sense that they're offering it to the other section.
Yeah.
I just.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the first time I'm hearing it.
Yeah, otherwise it was gonna be difficult for the trades condos
Yes.
to be able to utilize it. So we were just trying to, and
I'll
also
say
for the
maybe.
luxury condo suites to access it. Right? There's no walking path. There's no way to, it's kind of somewhat separate. So
Mayor, that was a question that one of the planning commissioners did ask, was how is the luxury condo people to get to
Mhm.
the clubhouse when the wetland is in the way? And initially there was discussion about a boardwalk. Well, problem with that is now the city's requiring that outlot for the wetland, so you'd need an encroachment agreement. So this is probably functionally better solution. We'll review it again once we get revised plans.
All right. Questions for the applicant or for staff?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can we circle back, Dan, to the separation from property in the county road and just the distance? I know you
Mhm.
touched base on that and just mentioned that obviously this is a project down the road and,
Yep.
but what is the distance? What does it have, do you know what the distance has to be from the road to?
So the city would have required that under its use of the roadway as a collector, industrial collector street.
Mhm.
So we require 40 feet of half right of way for the roadway within that, which is effectively what's there today, the way it was initially constructed. The county, in order to fit their potential roadway in the future, asks for 150 feet of right of way, which would accommodate a 4-lane road. So they're going to dedicate that the 40 feet plus another 35 feet of right of way for the 75 feet. Then from that point, you have the residential lots and the house are set back another 30 feet.
Okay. Thank you for clearing up that again. And then I also had another question. We talked about the Greenway Trail, and that's how they would have access in this area. Where, can we show on the map where do
So-
they go? Where would we have to go if I lived there? Or
So
I had a-
if you're living here, you would most likely take the sidewalk that's along Kittredge Parkway down to 70th Street
Okay,
to the east. The future Greenway corridor would be along this creek that would just go to the north of Kittredge Crossings, would get you to Kaleidoscope School.
Mhm.
And then from there, Callan will go north and out at 77th Street to get you to additional trails as well.
okay. Again, I only asked just because there's no, there's no trail on Catherine. So,
So the trail
But
on
there-
70th is to Callan.
Mhm.
And then the Villas at Kittredge Crossings is gonna construct that trail between Callan and Kittredge Parkway.
Right.
As part of their second phase, so that gives you that trail connection. So you will be able to get, if this comes in, first person living here, they can get to a trail at Callan and 70th Street by sidewalk. And then out to County Road 19 and whichever direction.
sure, I meant, Tadler and 70th, like there's no,
Correct.
obviously along that way, so you can go,
So
like
at
we just
this,
talked about.
when we looked at it, there's no destinations along that route. There's
Mhm.
no connectivity further to the east.
Sure,
So there isn't a lot of need for a residential trail in that area.
sure. And,
And all the
Yeah.
houses are in the north.
Mhm.
So this is
Right.
the,
They're wetland.
And would be significant wetland impacts. So if anything, there might be opportunity in the future to go through the wetlands. If there needs to be a trail along the buffer.
sure.
thank you. Any more questions? Comments? Otherwise, if there's no more questions or comments, motion will be in order.
Mayor,
Yes, Jack.
can I make a motion?
Sure can.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2024-05 to approve a zoning map amendment and to approve a PUD development stage plan and preliminary plat for Zachman Meadows subject to the stipulations as stated by the findings of fact and decision as presented.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Brittany. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, council members.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 5, Park and Rec. Item 5.1 is Ashwood. Hello, Mr. Jacobs.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. One second.
You're so tall.
Yeah,
Ms. Grindle's gonna need to lower it.
I know. She knows how. She did it at the Park Commission meeting. I hope you guys all had a chance to review the RCA written. We did go out. You guys remember in March, we had Tim from HKGI come here and give a nice presentation on Ashwood Park and how that 2.1 acre park on the corner of Ocean and O'Brien is, heavily wooded, and we're trying to preserve those trees and incorporate traditional play elements and nature play elements. The good news is we did go out and requested bids. We got 6 back, and the bids we got back were within budget. And we were able to also accommodate the request. The alternate was bid for a bocce ball court because there is some senior demographic who lives up in that area who are pretty excited about a bocce ball court. It is something that we do not have in our park system currently. So the fact that we were able to afford that as well was huge. So the bids came back, and Ron and Tim and myself reviewed them. Veda Contractor out of Cokato was the lowest responsible bidder. And we are recommending that council look to authorize them to do the project. Also tonight before you is a motion for the authorization to purchase the playground. As you know, we broke out the bid cost and the direct purchase cost when we did present. And we're asking for authorization to procure the playground because with the School No Park project last year, we kind of learned our lesson on playground procurement is paramount in making sure that these projects stay on a timely manner. So tonight before you are 2 motions. There was also, plenty of supporting materials in the packet that kind of outlined everything and broke it out nicely. At this time, I will ask if there is any questions, or else we'll be looking for council decision.
Council questions about this process and project?
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Nick, when we went through and we discussed the playground and the equipment and what might be there, we were given options. I know a couple of people, including myself, had talked about a warranty for some of the equipment. Where does that stand?
Sure. Tim did address that during the presentation, but the warranty was minimal, like a 5-year on playground structures. Unfortunately, they don't warranty those long. Some of the other items though, like the goal and some of those things do have lifetime warranties on them. The basketball standard with the soccer and the backboard on it, that was a lifetime warranty on those materials. But for the play structure itself, there's very minimal warranty on stuff like that, unfortunately. But their expected lifespan would be 20 to 30 years, depending on how, UV rays break them down and how usage is. So
I think that's fairly common. I mean, I think about over here at Prairie Park, the netting when that year that the netting had snapped, and so things obviously coming, you have a warranty for a certain amount of time, but just a little something is nice to have to fall back on if needed in those 5 years.
exactly. And we do budget in our general operating budget for playground replacement to try to account for some of those things. So.
Yes.
Obviously, we were all our biggest concern was that piece of equipment and the multi-sport thing, whatever you call it, but just the vandalism part to it. We understand the sun fade to it, but just, is it easily replaced if one piece versus buying a whole new thing?
Right. I think, just being mindful that we can never, account for what exactly we're going to see out there, but the lifetime warranty does help alleviate some of that. And Compan being a very large vendor in the playground manufacturing industry, it'd be easy enough to get a replacement part, and hopefully staff could address, some minor repairs. We wouldn't have to replace the whole thing would be the intent if there is some sort of vandalism on it. There is good products out there for vandalism removals now, so.
Can we get that in writing that they will replace?
All right, any more questions? Comments, otherwise a motion would be in order.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Brittany.
I'll motion to adopt resolution 2024-36, accepting bids and awarding contract to Veda Contracting LLC of Cokato, Minnesota for the Ashwood Park project, city project number 24-05, in the amount of $315,639.44.
Want to do it all or
And-
do it separate?
What? I can just do it, right? Because it's on here.
You say both,
Do
or-
both of them?
Unless council wishes to
Oh.
keep them separate.
I was just
There's
gonna-
two separate motions. They're two entirely different things. You might want to just keep them separate.
Keep separate.
All right, we have a motion on the first section. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, motion by Brittany, seconded by Jeff. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next one, someone would like to take it?
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to accept the quote from Midwest Playscapes and to authorize the purchase and installation of the playground equipment for Ashwood Park in the amount of $216,653.94.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Brittany, seconded by Jeff. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, moving on to item 5.2, Carrick's Waterfront Park.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council again. Tonight, Gabrielle is here from HKGI to do the presentation portion, but just a little bit of backstory about, I hope you guys did get a chance to review the RCA. This process and project have been identified in the Parks and System Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And since 2021, we have been working on this project, so it's a multiple year project in the making. It was identified, like I said, in the master plan. So staff and the Park Commission and HKGI worked over the past few years to kind of create some concepts and go over different funding mechanisms for this project. Being that it was on the Mississippi River, this was a great candidate for the outdoor recreation grant to help offset some of this cost. So it was decided in 2023 to pursue the outdoor rec grant. And HKGI did write the grant, and staff was made aware at that time there was a grant available from League of Minnesota Cities to offset the grant writing costs for the grant writing services. We were awarded that at that time. And then in June of 23, we were notified that we were awarded the maximum amount of the grant, a match grant, obviously, but up to $350,000. We were awarded $350,000. So that is the biggest grant recipient for any park project that we've had to date. So very exciting. We then now have moved into, at that time then it was identified by the state that we needed a phase 1 archaeological survey of that site to make sure there was no artifacts of significance at the site. It was determined that there was not, and council did accept the grant then in November of 23. So tonight before you is a project which has been a culmination of the past 3 years basically. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Gabrielle, and she will kind of give some more of outline of the project and as well as the grant requirements that are conditions of this. So this time I'll turn it back over and I'll lower it. So.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. So I'll continue with the slide we're at. So since December, we've been working on construction documents for this park site. We've been working with Hawkins and Anderson on the engineering. We just recently submitted the DNR permit for the boat launch application. So we went through several meetings with the DNR staff to determine exactly how we could permit the site as it was designed through the outdoor recreation grant. So the remaining tasks are we'll be putting this out to bid, and then bid opening anticipated May 22nd, hoping to award a bid May 28th and then construct it later this summer depending on the river elevation. Next slide. So just overviewing some of the goals of this project, based on what was put into the outdoor recreation grant. The purpose is to provide ADA accessible kayak and canoe access. So that's a big part of the outdoor recreation grant, needs to be ADA accessible. We've included a small picnic shelter and a bench as places to view the river. We're mimicking a little bit the same level of service that's provided at Norton Landing, although this is a little smaller site plan, but having a complementary facility. There will be shoreline fishing access. So with the boat launch, which is steps that go down to the river, there is the opportunity for people to fish from the shoreline if they so choose. We're restoring and revegetating the riverbank with native trees and shrubs, as well as a 4-bay area rain garden next to the parking lot on the western side of the existing stormwater pond. So we're revegetating that as well. The overall construction budget is at $775, so that includes the $350,000 grant funding. And then again, we're linking to Norton Landing with a paddle port option. So that's a later phase of the project to install the paddle ports so people can canoe or kayak from Norton Landing down to Carrick's Landing. Next slide. So again, some of the requirements as part of the grant is that all of these elements are included. So the kayak canoe launch, the river access, shore fishing, there's a small boardwalk. So providing access from the existing shared use parking lot to the site, going over that rain garden area. There's a short boardwalk there. We have a nature observation area with the shelter and the deck and overlook. There are a few paved trails added for accessibility. We're including some signage and the shelter. And then part of the grant also requires that we use all Minnesota native land species for landscaping, so that provides habitat for pollinators. Next slide. So this slide shows the site plan layout. We've gone through several different iterations, making sure we can fit everything into the riverbank, meeting the ordinance requirements, and then also the DNR requirements. So we're showing the boat launch, which is steps going straight down to the river just north of the shelter. And then there is the accessible path to the north of that with the accessible dock and kayak launch. And then on the western side by the parking lot is the short boardwalk over the rain garden. There will be a portable toilet installed on a new concrete pad, and signage at both the parking lot and then over by the river side. On the next slide. So this shows in a little more detail the parking lot access. So we are removing one parking stall from the existing parking lot and recommending adding an ADA parking stall because it is an ADA accessible site. There will be a new gateway sign you can see on the right side. There's a concept for what that gateway sign looks like. We're trying to match the signs that have recently been installed at Prairie Park. And this is a little bit larger, so it brings attention from the parking lot to the new kayak and canoe launch. Then moving over towards the riverside, you can see on the left side of the screen, there's a kiosk sign. So again, this matches kiosk signs that will be installed at Prairie Park. And then there is a bench located right next to the sign. To the south, there is a shelter, which will have a couple steps going up to it, along with an ADA accessible sidewalk on the west side, going up to the pad, the shelter that the pad that the shelter is on top of. And then there's the dock overlook, which is boardwalk or a wooden deck that overlooks the river. The boat launch is 8-foot wide concrete steps. They're about 2 feet each tread, so it's a leisurely walk down to the river's edge. And then to the north, there is the ADA accessible ramp. So this will be installed by Marine Dock and Lift, the same vendor that installed the dock just north at the Elk River river's edge. So it is accessible. We can choose the paint colors so that it can blend into the site and have a more natural feel and look to it. Next slide. So this image and the next image are some renderings of what this shelter will look like, and then the overlook looking towards the river. And then these are some images of what we're specifying for furnishings on the site. So on the left side is horizontal fencing that will surround the porta potty. And then we are specifying some black metal bollards that will be located at the parking lot to prevent people from driving onto that boardwalk and onto the trail. And then the image on the right is showing what the shelter would look like with a single gable, metal roof, and wooden posts. Next. This slide shows what the steps, so the boat launch itself will be the steps that you can walk down to a landing, which will be a few feet wide, and then steps that go all the way down into the water. So that we're trying to mimic the existing slope as much as possible, because this is meeting the same requirements as essentially a boat launch that you would drive into the river, but the DNR is allowing this by saying that it's similar, but it just is bumpy. I mean, we're getting away with it through making it fit into the slope. And then these are some images from Marine Dock and Lift showing what the ADA accessible kayak and canoe launch will look like. Next slide. And then this is the construction cost estimate. So with all of the items included, we are identifying direct purchase of the boat ramp, the accessible ramp, and the kayak and canoe accessible launch separately from Marine Dock and Lift. And then the signage will be a separate contract as well with the sign vendor. So with all of those costs included, we're looking at around 760,000. So hopefully bids will come in good, but that's where we're at right now. So next step is to put this out for bidding, and then again, the bid opening hopefully May 22nd with awarding bid potentially May 28th. Any questions?
I have a question for Nick. So I know we're putting the pylons in so we don't have people come in off of that south side where the signage will be. But where will, like, obviously staff goes in there to go around and now you have this porta pot down there. So how will they be entering to get down to clean that up? So where they're getting on now is what we would, those people continue to use that.
This plan does include a lot of improvement there for a truncated zone, restoration, all that.
Mayor?
Yes.
Can't we use like removable bollards there?
Mayor, I think the point is it's a boardwalk, so it's going across a softer. It's actually an elevated boardwalk, so it can only handle so much weight. So any vehicle of a certain weight
Would wreck
break
it.
So we have to keep everything that, isn't just pedestrians are only to use that.
So how are they going to clean out the porta potty?
That's the question.
Yeah.
He just said
So
that
there's
you'll come in
access
north.
point- Yeah, sorry. There's an access point where you're at Cowboy Jacks, between Cowboy Jacks and Guardian Angels. That's what Nick was just talking about. We are gonna make that ADA accessible at the front of that, but that's where the pickups would go in, or the truck that would be to get to the.
Go down there. Yeah,
porta
that
potty.
was what my question
And
was.
then there's another access, that one's kind of angled to the north, so that's your access in, and your access out would be on the north side of Guardian Angels. There's another one that goes out towards the cul-de-sac at the north end that you see,
Okay,
Quantrell.
I understand now. It's that the boardwalk is going over the small
The little section.
section there.
The rain guard, yes.
Right, but they can get there through pavement.
Correct.
It's just gonna be a bit of a drive. Okay.
Yeah. The whole thing is a mile, so yeah, they'd have to trek all the way around, but again, it's only a half mile to get there and a half mile to get out.
Thank you.
Mayor, that there is a restroom there on the site. I mean, this is no change of operation.
Right. I just wasn't sure with this boardwalk. Now I was like, this isn't something that they can drive on if you're putting these in. And so, okay. And obviously
We
the
put-
porta potty people would know this, but we don't want just residents trying to drive down there to,
Mayor,
yes.
we put a bollard on the other side too, to keep people that happen to be driving, if for whatever reason, shouldn't be only staff, but if someone is driving on the opposite side, they can't drive across.
Across it the other way.
Correct.
Okay.
Is that bollard removable?
We weren't planning on either of these being removable. Unless we had to replace the boardwalk.
What would be the reason for removable?
I'm trying to, on the north side, how are they going to get in if there's a block there?
There's not gonna be. He's talking about one here
Right.
and then the two right here. But there's nothing up at the top. That's-
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they're not putting any up at the spot that's currently how you get into this park. Up by Cowboy Jack's,
Okay.
correct? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Correct.
Madam Mayor, Ryan,
Yes.
did you have any other questions?
Nope.
What is the typical bidding time, or, it just seems like it's such a small window. Is this appropriate, like, to have, so May 22nd bid opening, and I'm just curious, again, what is the time frame, or what would be the window of?
I believe it's 30 days.
Yeah, Mayor,
Oh.
it's
Oh,
3 weeks of advertisement.
okay,
And that's state statute that
Okay.
guides that process, so.
so the bid opening okay. I was one step behind with that, never mind.
Mayor, and with Quest CDN, we would put out the advertisement immediately.
Okay. Any more questions or comments? Motion would be in order.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Sure.
Motion to approve the plan and specifications and authorize a competitive bid process for the park improvements at Carrick's Waterfront Waterfront Park.
Second,
Motion by Jeff, seconded by Brittany. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, moving on to council reports and updates. Does anyone have anything? Otherwise, we will go into, first one is heritage preservation. Brittany?
thank you, Mayor. Dan was in attendance at our last HPC meeting and kind of guided us along the way and helping us figure out who previously owned the land where the fire department is to go, or fire station is to go. And obviously where Ashwood is over there, where this Ashwood Park is to be developed. And the reason for that being is to name the park. So we made a little headway. That was nice. And they have some good ideas. Our new commissioners have a couple of good ideas. So hopefully that can play out and pan out nicely. But otherwise, that's it for HPC.
Perfect. Next, Park and Rec.
Thank you, Mayor. At our last Park and Rec meeting, we reviewed with council.
We were all there.
We were all there, and we reviewed the Prairie Park Master Plan. And it was nice to see most of the committee members were there, and several of the committee members were there, and just to have their input again, that everyone was excited about the amount of feedback they received with all the surveys we had out, and that's really it.
Okay, perfect. Next is Planning Commission. Well, you had Carrick's Landing, we needed a variance, so the Planning Commission supported that. And then Zachman Meadows, which we just had on the agenda tonight. They also had a discussion regarding fence standards and suggested no change to what we currently have. Then public safety, Tina's not here, so we had a liner present, and we also had Steve from Elk River. He was there for a short time. He was a pink eye, so nobody really wanted to sit with him. But we just talked about times are not necessarily where they'd like them to be, but that they're continuing to work towards, improvement on that. Wright County, everyone, switched to different schedules. It looks like in here, I wasn't planning on doing public safety, so I'm now reading my notes really quickly. We also talked about with, Jason had brought up some concerns with Nystrom. And so he'll be working with staff on that, just about calls that they've received. And then also he gave us the update, for anyone that might have received an email. We had gotten some request for additional help on the Jake Berry King issue over on Queens Avenue. And so Jason was there to give us an update because he wasn't at our last council meeting. So the information he got is they had spent multiple shifts there. Do you have how many hours
8.
it was?
Yeah, he assigned 8 deputies to that for 28 hours.
Okay, I had
spent.
28, but I was like, I didn't remember.
Yeah.
Okay, 28 hours total. And the information was
They found 1 violation.
one violation. So he thinks actually what the problem is, it's not Jake braking, that it's the motor revving up and revving down as the approaches with the hills and coming down in and then going up the hill. So down, and it's just the motor itself slowing itself. So I did ask for a follow-up, and I had included Dan on that too, for Jason to meet with the family that had requested. He came to our meeting and he did follow up with him on Saturday.
And sorry,
Oh, no, that's okay.
the 1 violation was a trucker that was going to Quick Trip, not any of the businesses in the area.
Yes.
So it's one of those scenarios where our sign, he never saw our
He wouldn't have
signs
seen the sign.
because we can't put them there. So
Yes. Yeah, that's what I have. Do you have anything else?
Nope.
Okay. All right, next, staff reports and updates. Sabrina.
Thank you, Mayor. Just updates on the consent agenda. We had our seasonal employees, so they'll slowly starting as kind of summer approaches, and thankfully have a lot of returning people. So excited for that. And then for the May 13th meeting, we should have a few recommendations for hire coming up with quite a few of our recruitments that just closed up. So updates will be at that May 13th meeting. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Adam.
Mayor and council, no additional updates this evening.
Audra.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no updates.
Right. Dave.
No updates. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay. Dan.
Mayor, no update this evening.
Okay. Ron.
Just a couple items. RL Carriers on near Queens Avenue. They will be starting in order for them to connect to sanitary sewer, they do have to cut into Queens Avenue. And it was set up as a detour, but we talked it through and they're gonna do a single lane, so that trucks can get through there and flag it, so we won't have to shut it down. There's also residents that of course live there.
Yes.
To the south. So I think that'll work better and they'll be out of the way in a few hours, but just in case you hear about that. And then also the east-west water main connection is going to go fully operational next week. They're going to be working on that. And that will give improved pressure to Boulder Creek 4th edition up on top of the hill. So if you hear something about that, that's what's occurring in that area.
When will the Arnell carrier with the detour?
I don't know the exact date, but we had a pre-construction meeting. It should be fairly soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will they sign? Can you kind of add in that we sign this?
Oh,
Well,
yeah, they'll have signs that'll show traffic control.
okay.
And flagmen coming up.
And so when it would be a day that this will take?
Just one day.
One day. Okay.
It'll be restored to gravel, so you can pass across it, and then they'll pave it soon after that.
Okay. I just was worried this was multiple days.
No.
One day.
Should not be.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Daryl.
Since Jason's not here tonight, I'll talk for an hour. I really don't have a lot. We are meeting with the architects again this week. We hope to finalize the floor plan for the building this week. And then we should be able to move into the nuts and bolts of the schematic design. Last week, I was able to attend some training in Indianapolis with 35,000 of my best friends. Attended 11 different sessions, everything from ladder truck operations to autism awareness. Was also able to meet with a lot of the equipment manufacturers and vendors that we'll be dealing with as we move forward with our project. So good information to bring back, a whole stack of literature to go through and information to digest, but you'll hear more about that as the moves ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Frog in my throat. If no one has anything else, then a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Jeff, seconded by Brittany. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The meeting has ended. Thank you all for attending.